So folks, we are live streaming and we can continue the conversation for the next 2 or 3 minutes if you folks would be open to that. Then we want to go into our Earth Day meditation. Today's presentation is going to describe a wide variety of other ways, new ways, hopefully, of looking at climate change and of resolving it and understanding our place in the world as a species in harmony and relationship with all other species and with the planet itself. And if you folks have any questions along the way during this presentation, please do ask. They'll only improve the presentation. This is our Earth Day meditation. Welcome, folks. This is hopefully going to be a facilitation of connection with all of humanity and our natural world. Our intention is love and service to the natural world and support of global transformational change necessary to bring us all as a species into harmony with nature. If you take a slow, deep breath, light and love direct from spirit into your heart and into your minds, and find in that light of spirit the loving, playful, co-creative possibility that is available to all of us as children of God, as a good species on this planet. We are, as a species, a miracle, as is this world. Finding that innate, essential goodness and holding the vision and understanding of it in all of our hearts and minds is key and core to solving our situation in regard to climate change. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love into heart, mind, and soul, and find in that vision of light the capacity to love and care for every being on this planet, every animal, every plant, every dimension of nature. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love into your heart, mind, and soul, and recognize that with our vast power as a species to change our world, to form it, to co-create in it together, there's a vast responsibility that comes with that power. There's a vast possibility that comes with that power. a vast possibility of service, a vast possibility of harmony between humanity and all other species, and humanity and the natural world in its entirety. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love from spirit, and find in that light loving compassion, compassion for the suffering of the children of our world. 5 million of them pass away each year from the effects of climate change already. 1 billion are at risk in regard to lack of fresh water in the near future or severe climate events. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love from spirit into your hearts and minds, and find willingness to intentionally grasp, comprehend, and understand the totality of the potential catastrophe that we all face together, to not shy away from it, to look upon it courageously and unflinchingly, moment by moment, for all future years of your lives. And if you choose to teach your children how to do the same, so that they might meet whatever future we co-create, certainly with peace, love, and harmony, and also with courage and co-creative possibility thinking. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love, and find the understanding in that light and love of what it truly means to collaborate with all other human beings on this planet, to work together in orchestrated concert in service to the natural world, in service to current generations, and in service to future generations, to solve climate change and to generate a sustainable life process for all of humanity. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love into your hearts, minds, and souls, and observe the world through that light, that gentle, caring, unconditionally loving, compassionate light of spirit, and find the capacity in your own system, your own soul, your own heart and mind, to see humanity as one, as united, as healed, as conscious, as courageous, as wise and discerning. If you hold that vision of our true capacity as a species to operate from such quality, consciousness, and wisdom and courage, then we can all find it within ourselves to work together to solve our present and future challenges, and to do so peacefully and harmoniously. You take one more slow, deep breath of light and love from spirit, and find in that light and love patience, tolerance, forgiveness, acceptance of all of humanity and all sentient species on this planet as worthy, as important, as vital, as precious, beyond description, and thus worthy of our stewardship, worthy of our care and curation, worthy of our sacrifice for the well-being of the whole of the planet, the totality of life on this world that we call Earth. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love from spirit, and find in that light and that love the envisioned possibility of a peaceful, joyful future where we are realized to be one with nature and all other species. And we are realized to be one as a collective, loving, caring humanity. We close this meditation with a prayer for current and future generations of all species, a prayer for the health and harmony of the ecosystem in its totality, and a prayer for all of those who hear this meditation and this message to be able to open their hearts, minds, and souls courageously, in a determined way, in a resolute way, such that they can choose consciously and in a sustained way to work together for the common good. We thank you very much. So, we are World System Solutions. My name is John Jones, CEO of World System Solutions. We just want to communicate on this blessed Earth Day that we care about all of humanity and the natural world. We want to express our love and our commitment to bringing humanity back into harmony with our natural ecosystem. As a collective, we have moved away from that oneness, that harmony, that balance, that commitment, the resolute, courageous commitment to value the ecosystem equal to our own value as a species. Our organizational and personal dedication is to create a healthy future for our children across all aspects and dimensions of life. Our message today is designed to offer what we feel are necessary understandings for humanity to have, or to attain, or to learn, or shift into in order to transcend this climate disaster, which we're all participating in and experiencing to one degree or another now, and thus to operate from higher states of consciousness in collaboration with each other as equals, all of humanity operating equally. We thank you for your presence here in this presentation today. We hope that you'll find it worthwhile. It is meant to serve you, and that is our greatest focus. So we want to offer some perhaps extravagant statements as to what climate change is. And we would suggest that it is a relationship between us and nature, between us and each other, between humanity and all other species on this planet. We would suggest that that relationship is ever evolving, and that evolution of that relationship requires consistent curation, consistent stewardship, conscious intention, conscious commitment, resolute courage to face whatever learning, whatever change must be faced in order for us to continue to develop as a species and to keep ourselves in enough harmony with the planet that we don't damage it or ourselves irrevocably. So we would like to talk about the process of, sorry, one moment. Our slide, we are live. Very good. So we want to talk about symptoms versus causes of climate change and the interplay of these two positionalities as we solve for climate change. Certainly the temperatures are going up. Certainly icebergs are being created as they calve off of the Antarctic. And certainly we're having more storms and fires and drought. We would suggest that those are symptoms. And that said, will we be able to present that? There we go. So the symptoms are different than the causes, and they're interwoven. And we'll give you an example of that. We would suggest that the causes of climate change are human activity on this planet, and they are creating catastrophes, fires, floods, and droughts. And that said, and those would be the symptoms. And that said, if we create a lot more technology to deal with the fires, floods, and droughts, or the rise in temperature, does it make sense that that technology is part of what's causing climate change, causing the symptoms in the first place? So we would suggest that it's vitally important that we understand that our process of trying to solve for climate change may in part be causing it, simultaneous to us experiencing the symptoms of climate change. Now, there's a lot of resistance in humanity in this moment in regard to mapping and understanding and accepting the challenges that we're facing in regard to climate change. We don't want to understand that we are creating it. We don't want to understand our place in it. We don't want to understand what's necessary to change in our lives as individuals and nations and organizations in order to resolve climate change. There's a built-in part of the human system that says, I don't want to change and I don't want to learn. I want to focus on attaining what I want and experiencing what I want in life. And I want to prioritize that more highly than understanding climate change and being willing to foundationally and fundamentally change my life in order to solve it. So we would suggest that this process of mapping the resistance and the cause and effect dynamics is vitally important. Understanding the difference between the causes and the symptoms and the interplay between causes and symptoms is vitally important. We want to talk about what people are experiencing in regard to climate change versus how the process of climate change is mentally conceptualized and often disassociated from. So for example, if you have lived in California and you have experienced the fires and the smoke or the drought or the extreme weather, or if you've lived in Louisiana or Florida and experienced hurricanes, or in other parts of the United States, then you would have experienced effects and symptoms of climate change personally, and you could probably relate to that experience very well. That doesn't mean that you understand the totality of the global shifts that are occurring. So this experience can be of feeling the flames, so to speak, or experiencing the hurricanes or the drought. That can be quite motivating to do something about climate change, or at least to try to understand it. That doesn't mean that if you just focus on a mental understanding of what's going on in the world, that you're really going to get it. We must blend our experience as well as our new understandings and our mental constructs of what climate change is and what it isn't, how it affects us, how it's going to affect us, and not emotionally disassociate from it and say, well, I certainly understand all of the dynamics of plastics affecting climate change or pollution or fossil fuel burning. I understand those intellectually, and I don't get them emotionally. And because I don't get them emotionally, I'm not motivated to do anything constructive and fundamental and comprehensive in terms of changing my life and the lives of my family or my nation or our species in terms of how we operate in regard to climate change. Next item. So we would ask, how many people are looking at climate change as a series of discrete events or metrics or measures rather than as a global, systemically unfolding process? how necessary is it that we shift our way of looking at climate change and not see it as, well, there was a fire last month, or there's a hurricane next month, or there's a drought that's been going on for a specific number of days, months, or years. To be able to see this as a long-term unfolding process that might take generations to fully manifest, and that is affecting us all now, even if we don't feel it significantly in any particular area of the country or world that we live in. So we would suggest learning to shift out of this very natural human tendency, innate human tendency, to see climate change as a bunch of discrete weather patterns or events such as large chunks of the glaciers breaking off that we hear about in the news, to see it as a continuity and not as fragmented, discrete events. Next item. Human beings tend to focus on day-to-day experiences to the exclusion of seeing long-term unfolding dynamics, and thereby they are often not moved to necessary, sustained collective action. So if we say, well, we weathered the storm, we weathered the drought, or we weathered the fire, and now it's over, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen again next week or next month in some more extreme form. So this process of trying to focus on day-to-day experiences, just getting through the day, just paying the bills for this month or next month, or just ensuring that we have that which we need in the present moment, tends to obscure our capacity to see the continuity of the effects of climate change and to respond to them intelligently, collectively, and assertively, and in a sustained and resolute way. Next item. So fear is a part of climate change. People's fear and desire for safety in life and control of their lives, and for a continuity of financial solvency or assured safety and security of their families, that drives us blindly and mercilessly to try to get a Western lifestyle or to have a stable home life, a place to live, a consistent job. And that's part of the fear process. Another part of the fear process is our fear tries to keep us from looking at the bigger picture, looking at the totality of climate change, seeing the truth of it and responding to it consciously and intelligently. So the fear has created climate change, us striving for more in order to feel safe and secure, us striving for a Western lifestyle and not wanting to have less or be less than anyone else. That's a fear-driven process, even though it might seem to be otherwise. And then the fear kicks in that says, I don't want to lose everything that I have attained in my Western lifestyle in order to change, in order to solve for climate change. I don't want to take a chance on losing anything, and I fear losing what I have, my job or my belongings or my material life. And I don't want to do that if that is the supposed cost for solving for climate change. So we remain in denial. Fear and denial are learning disabilities in the face of obvious catastrophe that's building rapidly around the world. Next item. So we would suggest that climate change isn't a technological issue. It's not something for the scientists to solve. It's not something for government to handle. Climate change is an emotional issue far more than either an intellectual, technological, or mental issue. It takes courage to accept that to be true and to operate from this process of emotion, to be willing to feel what we feel, whether it's fear, denial, resentment, anger, hatred for the supposed generators of climate change. If we judge or hate the fossil fuel companies and vilify them, that's not solving for climate change. The fear that drives anger, hatred, and resentment, we would suggest is an unnecessary byproduct of the dynamic for actually solving climate change. So we would suggest that climate change resolution is a process of global learning and transformation. We're not going to get it all by watching a YouTube video. We're not going to understand the totality of climate change on any given day through any particular educational process. It must be a continual dynamic of learning, and not just as individuals, as collectives, as nations, as cultures, as genders, as religions. All of us must choose resolutely and in a determined and focused and consistent way to understand what is necessary to be understood in order to work together to solve climate change and to transform the totality of the life process on this planet. Nothing less than that will do. That is the standard. There is no other standard. No matter what you might hear from any source, we must choose as a species to change how we live our lives on this planet. Chasing after a Western lifestyle is a death sentence for our species. We must now change. Next slide. So, right now, this is how we're approaching climate change as communities, as nations, and as a species. We're either trying to escape from it, or we're trying to find a way to profit off the potential apocalypse. And moving in either of those directions is in and of itself an incredibly dysfunctional approach to climate change. Trying to ignore it, deny it, discredit it, or distract from it is only going to bring it onto us faster. It's only going to create more problems faster than resolutely, courageously facing it and accepting it as a truth, as a fact, as the new reality that we're all living in. So either of these directions are understandable. If people want to competitively focus on profit and operate from greed, they have the free will choice to do that. And we would suggest that if they choose that, they will be destroying the future for our children. Or they can hide from climate change, they can deny it. And if they do so, they will be destroying future generations' life experience. They will be creating a world that the children today and in the future will inherit and will suffer in. This is not a judgment of either choice. It's hopefully an accurate description that we hope is informative. Next slide. So we would suggest some rather potentially extravagant statements. Our present global economic system, our way of making money, our way of operating collectively in competitive silos, organizationally and nationally and internationally, is creating climate change. We are the problem, and the way we're currently living is the problem, and climate change is just the symptom of our collective choices. Our focus on the current way of operating collectively, economically, is blinding us to the global effects of our choices and our personal and collective life process. Our adaptive technologies, the way we create food in this world, the way we solve problems, the way we create Western lifestyles, the ways that we create and maintain our world and our life process are taking us out of alignment and out of synchronization with nature. They're pitting us against nature as a literal enemy. It's estimated that we may destroy 1 million species by the year 2050. We've already killed off many, many species. 1 million more could go the way of the dodo by 2050. We must change the trajectory of our life process. So humanity now requires a complete, multidimensional, and transdisciplinary platform and service architecture to solve for and reconcile the rapidly escalating complexity and scale of world problems and needs, including those related to climate change. In simpler terms, whole solutions to holistic problems. We want to offer that system to the world. We're referring to it as the social movement engine. It is a collaboration platform designed to generate and deliver solutions to climate change at global scale. Next slide. These are just a few of the dimensions of climate change that must be addressed collectively and in an integrated way. We can't go at this piecemeal. We can't go at it in a way that does not integrate all of these different dimensions of human life process into a functioning, well-organized, logistically orchestrated solutions development and delivery system. Next slide. So, the social movement engine is our way of solving for climate change. It's a platform that provides information, education, resources, and activation of individuals and communities in service to humanity, as well as empowering groups of people and individuals and organizations to collectively solve for climate change. We want to generate a new and sustainable global future. So the SME system is a delivery system for the votes and the will and the voices of all of humanity, the creative, co-creative will of humanity being manifest now and in the future in well-organized, effective, efficient ways. Next slide. So happy Earth Day to you all. Please do meet us at wssnow.org to learn more about the social movement engine, about how we propose humanity operate collaboratively and consciously to solve for climate change. We thank you for your participation and for viewing this. We hope you have a fantastic day, and God bless.